Are you having problems sleeping? Do you have a hard time falling asleep? Or are you waking up multiple times a night and can't get back to sleep? If you want to take your performance to the next level, you're going to need to improve your sleep. I'm Dr. Chris Friesen from Friesen Performance, where I help you achieve your greatest potential by optimizing your psychology, physiology, and neurology. Poor sleep affects not only your performance, but it's associated with numerous physiological, psychological, and neurological problems that I'm going to review today. In this series, I'm going to focus on the main causes of poor sleep and what to do about them. It's hard to make changes if we're not keenly aware of all the negative things that'll happen if we don't make a change. I hope this video motivates you to move from contemplating taking action to preparing for or taking action when it comes to your sleep. But before I go any further, if you think you may have some serious sleep problems, you definitely want to get a sleep study. You want to rule out things like obstructive sleep apnea or restless leg syndrome. Just as an example, if it's severe enough or goes on long enough, untreated sleep apnea can lead to permanent cognitive impairment. This is clear from research and my own clinical experience as a neuropsychologist performing dementia evaluations. If it goes on long enough and it's not treated, it's usually treated by a CPAP machine or a continuous positive airway pressure machine, there can be permanent neurological damage and cognitive impairment. There's evidence that there's neuronal loss in our memory centers in the brain called the hippocampus, and also in the frontal lobe of the brain, and especially the white matter, which is the wiring in our brain. It's primarily due to the lack of oxygen getting to our brain because in sleep apnea, people stop breathing over and over again throughout the night. Does poor sleep affect our neurology and cognition? The answer is a definitive yes. When we don't get enough sleep, our neurons and brain don't have enough time to recover. It's actually similar to being drunk. There's some interesting research that shows that being up for just 17 hours, which is like getting up at 7 and going to bed at 2 in the morning, is the same as being legally drunk at the 0.05% blood alcohol level. This would put you over the limit in most Western countries. Research shows that there's a significant reduction in hand-eye coordination. Just to put this into perspective, a blood alcohol level of 0.05% is basically being slightly drunk. You would be gesturing more, talking louder, your vision might be a bit blurry, and your judgment will be impaired. Staying awake for 24 hours is equivalent to having a blood alcohol level of 0.1%. This is like being obviously drunk. You have significant physical impairment and slurred speech. There are a lot of other cognitive areas that are impaired when we have poor sleep. One is our attention. Think of this as our ability to concentrate, to sustain our attention for a long period of time, to resist distractions. In addition, it affects our reaction time, our processing speed, and it makes us more prone to make errors. Over the years, I've done a lot of work with high-performing police officers and police services. One thing we've done is test their cognition year to year. So these are tests of reaction time, processing speed, memory, etc. And what we see is when they take the tests after nights they didn't sleep well, their performance drops. This is not a big surprise. What's interesting though is that they don't notice that there's an impairment. So when we ask them how they thought they performed, they'll say they felt they performed as good as, if not better, than previous times. But when we look at the numbers, it's a different story. We know from the research that poor sleep leads to a reduction in our capacity to notice that we're impaired. Not surprisingly, poor sleep makes it harder for us to learn new things. This can be a problem if you're a student, or you're taking any courses, or you're learning new procedures at work, or if you're an athlete. What the research shows is that we need non-REM sleep for what is called declarative memory, which is our ability to remember facts. We need REM sleep, or what's called rapid eye movement sleep, for something called procedural memory. This is our ability to remember sequences of steps, or learning something physical. Think of motor memory or motor learning. This is like riding a bike learning an instrument, or learning a sport. We also know poor sleep affects our executive functioning. Our executive functioning is really what differentiates us from everyone else in the animal kingdom. It's our gigantic frontal lobes that primarily control our executive functioning. There's a reason why chimpanzees aren't flying airplanes or writing poetry. We have bigger frontal lobes than they do. So this is our ability to make decisions, to plan, to organize, to think abstractly, to problem solve. It also has to do with our ability to inhibit ourselves, to inhibit decisions, to inhibit our emotions, to resist distractions. Poor sleep can mimic the symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. A lot of my clinical work still involves diagnosing and treating ADHD and traumatic brain injury. I often see a lot of adults coming into my clinic thinking they have ADHD when it's really sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation essentially mimics ADHD. Interestingly, there's a brainwave pattern that we measure to help with the diagnosis of ADHD. This is called the theta-beta ratio. In other words, it's measuring the ratio of slow wave activity in the brain relative to fast wave. About 85% of individuals with ADHD have excessive slow wave activity in the central or front parts of the brain. This is why stimulant medication is a treatment of choice, because it speeds the brain up. Interestingly, over time, the theta-beta ratio has been found to be less accurate in newer studies. And the most likely reason for this is that individuals are sleeping less. With technology such as cell phones, computers, etc., people are staying up later, and the blue light emitted by these devices affect our circadian rhythm. What we know is individuals now get less sleep than they did when they discovered the theta-beta ratio. So what's happening is individuals who don't have ADHD are starting to look like they have ADHD on brain mapping, and it's really just poor sleep. We also know that poor sleep leads us to make riskier decisions. We tend to downplay the downsides of a decision and focus too much on the positives of a decision. Imagine how costly it can be if you make the wrong decision about what car to buy, where to live, who to hang out with, who to marry. It also reduces creativity. This is especially important in jobs that require creativity or if you're in a training program that requires it. All of what I'm describing can lead to a significant decrease in your performance at work, in sport, or in school. But much of what I've described so far have to do with the more immediate cognitive effects. But there's also long-term cognitive and neurological effects to poor sleep. What we know is lack of deep sleep leads to both cognitive impairment and possibly the development of Alzheimer's disease. Recent research has revealed that approximately 15% of all Alzheimer's disease cases are the result of chronic sleep deprivation. It's been known for a while that chronic poor sleep in your 30s, 40s, and 50s can lead to Alzheimer's disease or other types of dementia, but we didn't really have a mechanism as to why. But in 2013, there was a major discovery in neuroscience. It's called the glymphatic system. Think of the lymphatic system in our bodies. Well, they call this the glymphatic system when it's in our brains. Our glial cells actually shrink, and in deep sleep, it allows our brain to clean itself, wash itself. Some people call this a deep cleaning. What we know is in Alzheimer's disease, we get a buildup of beta amyloid proteins in our brain, but that deep sleep allows our brain to clean this. So we know this from both animal studies now and human studies. We know that even one night of sleep deprivation leads to an increase in beta amyloid proteins in our brains. Stay tuned for upcoming videos where I go over what to do to improve your sleep. For now, aim to get at least 7 to 9 hours in bed and 7 hours of actual sleep. There are devices on the market, like the Oura Ring, that help you measure your sleep. Just be aware that none of these can actually reliably measure stages of sleep, but they can relatively reliably measure whether you're asleep or awake. So total number of hours sleeping versus awake at night will be relatively accurate. I hope this video helped you see all the bad things that can happen if you don't get proper sleep. Now consider all the great things that will happen if you do improve your sleep. Imagine how you're going to have a healthier mind, a healthier body, a healthier brain, that you're more likely to live a long and healthy life. Imagine waking up feeling refreshed, feeling healthy, feeling confident that your body and your brain has properly healed each night. Imagine having more energy, being better able to maintain and improve your fitness and muscle gains, being more creative, being in a better mood, feeling less anxious, less stressed, less moody, less irritable, having more willpower, being better able to resist temptations, making better decisions, having a faster reaction time, being better able to concentrate, having quicker cognitive processing speed, having a sharper memory, being more productive, having better performance at work, in school, or in sport, being able to be the type of person you want to be, being able to live your life in line with your goals and your values. The effects of good sleep are better than any medication or supplement you can take. In my upcoming videos, I'm going to go over the 3 main causes of sleep problems and give you tips and strategies on how to overcome them. If you want to take a deeper dive into sleep, I highly recommend Matt Walker's book, Why We Sleep. So are you ready to take your sleep to the next level? If you're liking this content, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe and the bell icon to get alerted when any new videos come out. Share with friends or family or anyone you think might benefit from this. So until next time, keep moving forward.